What's up, dudes and dudes here? And I'm Scyushi. We're on the test server, ladies and gentlemen. Today is going to end up being the patch notes, but it's on the test server, so it's all subject to change. And of course, we're probably going to end up seeing the full patch notes in, let's say, roughly 2 to 3 weeks. I know that the test server is supposed to be available for 2 weeks at the minimum, which would tell me that we're either going to see this update hit PC, don't know about consoles, either at the end of August or early September, something like that. There's two main things that come with this update, namely the new block ability and the mystic gems. There's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad with all of that I was able to test out for you guys, but there's still a lot of questions that are up in the air, and a lot of that also just has to do with a lot of this being subject to change. So leave your feedback in the Trove Discord and yell at the devs or something. But anyway, before we get started, would appreciate if you left a like, sub if you haven't, but I mean, of course you have. We're talking about Trove here. So let's get into it. Combat block. So combat block is a new system that can protect Trovians from death. Each point of combat block can save a Trovian from a single damaging attack, which would otherwise kill them. Yes, this works similarly to Death-Defying Vial, just without a heal. So that's going to end up being this little shield that goes over your health bar. And essentially what happens is it's going to dominate over Death-Defying. So even though I have Death-Defying equipped, the game is going to consider taking out of this shield before it takes out Death-Defying, which I think is a huge error in the game's code. I think that it should take Death-Defying first, unless it's a lethal death through Death-Defying, because you know how Ephira, the Leviathan in D14, and more particularly the crabs in D15, would end up just one-shotting you even with Death-Defying. The block will actually negate that damage, which does mean that it does serve a purpose. However, the problem is what this costs to recharge. So they say for the test server, the block will be free during testing, filled by interacting with the battle block battery in the hub. So while we're in the loading screen, I'll mention that they don't talk about it in the patch notes, but I have the content creator notes that they left us. And they basically said that this is going to cost block element, which you get from the the various gear crafter vaults and so on and so forth, but it's also going to cost qubits. That is extremely questionable design, and I don't like it. I'm glad that it doesn't cost credits, but the fact that it costs a time-gated resource that you would otherwise just spend on other things is just kind of stupid, in my opinion. But let's move on. So they go on to say, while all classes can benefit from combat block, it is specifically oriented towards melee characters who must wade into close quarter combat, risking more than ranged characters. The maximum amount of block you can have depends on your class and the defensive stat on your weapon, face, and hat equipment. What defensive stats? What are they talking about? Defensive stats include, max health, health regen, and stability. Interesting. I didn't read that part while I was testing stuff on the live server. That means that those stats kind of serve a purpose. Most of all, it would just be, okay, the only instance that I could see using this ability would be if you are something like a freak who's at the end game and needs to survive through those abilities that'll one-shot you even through Death-Defying. Then you want to end up making your stats, your block, as high as possible so that you're saving more qubits in the long run. I just don't think it should cost qubits, cost only block element. They say properly geared melee classes like Knight or Revenant can expect to have over 1,000 points of combat block. That is very interesting. If it's just a one-time fee that ends up, if you can have that much, like, it really depends how many qubits we're talking about here, because I'm saying it should cost like 50 qubits or something. I still like the idea of this ability. I just hate its execution, because the fact that it's qubits, it's just so stupid. So the only people that I would see benefiting from this would be the true end game freaks that would be wanting to, fight either Leviathan grinding, or if you're just in D15 with the clams. Now, the problem is that the D15 clams are so brokenly powerful that it doesn't only affect melee. Because what basically happens is these clams put up a shield that makes them have thorns. So you essentially kill yourself by attacking them, because a player can deal significantly more damage to yourself than an enemy can. And so you just, and there goes all your health. Now, another huge problem with this effect right here is it doesn't heal you, which means that if you tick down to one hit and then you get hit with something and then you get hit with something again, then you just lost 2 block already right there. Lava will just bam, 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 just completely decimate all your blocking. So I would not recommend getting it if you're going into the elemental world, for example, because if you stand around in lava, it's just going to end up draining it. Most of all, again, I like the idea because it's an option to not bother using Death Defying. Like, truly, you wouldn't have to use Death Defying anymore. But at the end of the day, it just is like there's a lot of things that I don't like about the block. Anyway, let's move on to the Mystic Gems. And just before we talk about the Mystic Gems, there's something I wanted to mention. So for a while now, we no longer have the resources. I gotta get out of here. We no longer have the resources to take gems off. You know how there was the Regeminator or whatever? It hasn't been in the game for a while now for anyone that's coming back to the game. Essentially, you can just freely socket your gems however you want without a cost. However, for the longest time, there's always been this confirmation button when you drag and drop your gems off. That's no longer here in this update, it seems, and the patch notes didn't mention it, which is odd. However, there's still one last little thing that I would love to see them fix, because the way that this worked in a previous update is if I, for example, take this explosive epilogue, put it here, normally it would give me a prompt, do you want to swap these gems? You click yes, it takes this gem off and then puts the new gem in the slot. Unfortunately, a couple updates ago, they changed that, and it just it just unequips the gem. So you still have to do the click drag and then the click drag. It's an extra button input that I prefer not to have, but at the very least, it is a nice step in the right direction that it no longer confirms whether you want to swap your gems. Thank God. Let's get into the Mystic Gems. So I want you guys to keep in mind that while we're going to be kind of just skimming over the Mystic Gems and the patch notes and so on and so forth, I'm still going to have dedicated videos that'll really dissect all of this stuff for you guys. And otherwise, you can check out my lengthier live stream from yesterday that I'll probably post the VOD today as well, where we end up experimenting with all of it and going into it. So anyways, Mystic Gems have arrived. Found in gem boxes obtained in Long Shade D15. Mystic Gems can help Trovians extend their power even further, allowing them to take on the toughest enemies. Mystic Gems require some new materials to be fully upgraded and some old materials. Like your Crystal Gems, good news, you can buy Mystic Gem converters from the store or craft them, not really, allowing you to keep your Crystal Gem stats allocated. Now, here's the thing. There is all of these new items that you can end up forging in relation to Mystic. But before we end up tackling all this, because it's something that we really got to dive into, there is going to end up being D15 of water, air, and fire. There is no current D15 of Geode, which sucks because there are cosmic D15 gem boxes in the game's code, which means that D15 for Geode is just not here yet, which is odd. And I can't get into the details, but there's another update that I know they're working on in relation to the Geode that might be why they're postponing D15 for the Geode. But it essentially means that if this is the update that we can expect to happen on the live server, it means that the cosmic gems become the most valuable in the game for any player, because you aren't going to have a way that you can consistently get mystic cosmic gems. Like, you're going to have to otherwise upgrade into them, and it's pretty bad. So suffice to say, you'll end up getting these new boxes, and they can end up dropping crystal gems very commonly. I also got really, really lucky right there and just got a mystic gem. Now, mystic gems can end up going up to level 35, up from level 30 on crystal gems and level 25 on stellar gems. And unfortunately, we don't currently have the new gem converter in the store on the test server at the moment that I'm recording this. I did contact my guy, so hopefully he'll let me know what the overall cost of them is going to be. I don't know if he can tell me because it's all probably subject to change. But suffice to say, my recommendation when this update goes live would be to get the gem converters and only convert your cosmic gems and then just slowly grind up the rest of them, because they're going to end up being ridiculously expensive. Maybe if you can afford it, depending what the converters cost, whether it be for credits or hopefully they have a cubic price for them, but I don't know. Suffice to say, empowered gems are going to be extremely tedious. Lesser gems, not as bad as you would think. Now, there's a lot of things in here that is just atrocious. That unfortunately, like, here's the converter if you craft it. No, this is like, this is a significant amount of gem dust in order to craft these, because you have to craft, these are 30,000 gem dust each, and a single one of these is 20 of each of those. So 30,000, yes, I'm mathing this, 30,000 times 20, 600K gem dust of every type just to craft one of these, which means that if you did 600,000 times 10, you need 6 million of every gem dust type just to get the amount of gem dust shards, not including the Souls of the Depths, which has gotten out of super deep delves that only the true end gamers can grind, so long as they have a group of other end gamers to do it with. For myself, I can pretty much handle almost everything in the game. The reason I don't have Mystic gear, because people are always asking me, is because I can't solo the delves. And I'm not going to adhere to other people's schedules in order to just go into this world so that I can grind for gear that gives me a slight increase in stats. But again, we'll dive into all of this in more detail later. Moving on, there's the empowered gem boxes, and these are egregious. You can just look at the crafting costs and just calculate it for yourself. This is why the empowered gems in particular are extremely RNG based, and I hate it. But yeah, suffice to say, Mystic lesser gems aren't going to end up being too tedious. Once you get them to level 28, that's when it starts costing the Mystic Spark on top of a severe amount of normal gem sparks. But you have to consider, if you can manage to upgrade all of your cosmic gems, you'll get a pretty significant amount of light, or at least you'll get a couple bits of light. It's not as much as you would think. And hopefully that will make enough of a difference when you're farming in D15 so that you can farm more consistently, farm more efficiently, because the boxes drop crystal gems very, very commonly, and crystal gems can be loot collected for cosmic or for the gem sparks. Now, ideally, you would level this gem to level 15, then you loot collect it, and you'll just make more sparks back than the amount of gem dust spent. However, I am seriously questioning the developer's decision to not overhaul the loot collector, or at least add a filter option, because this is going to be a lot, like hundreds of manual unlock on gems in order to destroy them. Okay, anyways, moving on from the Mystic Gems, which we'll see, time will tell how good or bad they're going to end up being when it hits live server. There's also been some new class balancing, and if there's one thing that I would love to just say to the devs outright, if I could say it to their face, I would say, this is cool, but you need to start buffing the other classes now. Shadowhunter actually is not good anymore, because all the other classes have slowly started to outshine it. So what we're going to see with this balance update is Chloromancer has had its healing effectiveness buffed, which doesn't mean anything. It's funny that the devs think healing effectiveness is actually a thing on the Chloromancer, especially when they boost its healing from 4% to a whopping 6%. The mini bloom spawn has increased from 10% to 15%, so at the very least you would get the mini bloom more often, who cares? Gunslinger has had its basic attack damage increased by 15%, that's pretty big. The run and gun cooldown reduced from 40 seconds to 33 seconds. Run and gun duration increased from 10 seconds to 11 seconds. Makes a big difference in terms of using your ult more often and having your ult up a little bit longer. that is a pretty significant change to Gunslinger, who actually has already been really, really good for the end game ever since the server overhaul, because now its shots are consistently hitting enemies. So that is very surprising that they wanted to buff Gunslinger that much. Fey Trickster. Fey Dance has had its damage increased by 25%. Fey Dance cooldown reduced from 40 seconds to 30 seconds. And Glitter Bomb energy cost has been reduced. Who cares? Again, if you want all the numbers, link will be in the description. Vanguard has had some changes, not good ones. Not good ones. It hasn't really affected the class in a positive way. Heroes charge cooldown reduce, I-beam takes less energy, melee attack has been bumped up from 3.85 to 4.5. I don't know why they're not giving us percentage value, instead just giving us raw number. That could probably make a difference. When Heroes Charge is active, Vanguard gets 50% boost to max health, regen, and stability, which, as we know now, would end up syncing up with the block stat. Problem is, the reason why nobody uses Vanguard is because the ranged version of Vanguard is bugged. Like, there's actually a bug with the code on the Vanguard's ranged mode that makes it just not good. I can't give you the exact details. I don't care. Pirate Captain. Now the first mate, you know, the little turret guy that you can throw down, you normally could only throw down one of them, and then you get your class gem and you can throw down two. Now you default have two of them, and your class gem lets you throw down three, which would be cool if they didn't have garbage damage. Your ultimate ability has had a cast cooldown decrease from 40 seconds to 35 seconds, so that's pretty big. Because for Pirate Captain mains out there, if you actually use multiple of your ults, it deals insane damage. Granted, the ult has to actually target your target, which doesn't happen often. And then there's the Revenant changes. So damage increasing effect on Vengeful Spears increased from 5% to 15%. That is huge for the Revenant. Revenant already hits like a truck, believe it or not. Cooldown of Spirit Storm has been reduced from 40 seconds to 30 seconds, and then the health cost has been reduced. Who cares? Spirit Spear's health cost has been reduced from 5% per second to 4% per second. Who cares? We lifesteal out of it anyways. Draco mains rejoice. Basic attack increased by 50%. Insane. And then the damage increase in your ultimate ability has gone up from 2.5% to 10%. Let me tell you, I tested this out in D15. I don't have a good Draco, and my Draco was outperforming my Shadowhunter, who has all of my best gear. Buff the Shadowhunter, devs, for the love of God. It's my favorite class in the game, and you just keep making it weaker. Tomb Raiser has had its minions' health increase by 20%. Too bad it wasn't more damage. At least it means the minions will survive longer. Who cares? All right, so Luxion has had some changes as well. The item pool for Trials of Luxion has been brought up to date with Fluxion's inventory. I don't know how accurate that's going to be moving forward, but whatever. Golden Horde Dragon Soul, the new Luxion Dragon Soul. It says that the crafting limit has been increased to 30 per week. I think that's a typo and they mean 30 per day. Because normally you could craft 15 per day and you could get the fully maxed out Luxion Dragon in a week of solid grinding, but you couldn't miss a single day of getting all of the fragments. So now 30 per day, I'm assuming, is what they mean, because that would mean that you could kind of relax a little bit on those first few days. Venturine caches are slightly more likely to give non-Venturine rewards when getting sweet or lucky loot. Who cares? General Changes is just mentioning that they have the new Cursed Drowned D15 worlds. There's new banners for, or new sigils, I should say, for higher levels of both power rank and mastery. The class selector now saves the last selected filter. I don't know who uses these filters, but whatever. And then they just mention a couple bug fixes, and then there's supposed to be a couple other things that they mention in the content creator notes here. So they say, while it's not going to make its way to the test server right now, they are going to fix the vacuumatic, which is the vacuum in the geode caves and stuff. They're trying to get that fixed before this patch goes live. And I also should mention that they want to have the test server open for 2 weeks, which, again, I mentioned earlier, is basically meaning that the update will probably be the end of August, if not early September. But you guys can log into the test server for an hour between the dates of August 15th to August 20th. and then you'll get a week's worth of Patron for free on the live server. I assume it's just going to be auto-consumed rather than a Patron coin or something like that. But that's still pretty cool. Kind of sucks for you guys on console because it means that you're going to have to like log on to the test server in order to... No, you wouldn't get Patron on your console account. You would get it on your PC account. Anyways, what do you guys think about all this stuff? Overall, like there's a lot in terms of the execution of this update that I strongly disagree with, and I really, really hope they refine and make better for the player rather than just making things worse. Otherwise, yeah, generally speaking, the gems are kind of cool. You know, there's a lot of them there's a lot of aspects of the gems that I don't like. The main thing that I'm concerned with is how much is the converter going to cost in the store? Because this is clearly geared towards pay to win, which I'm okay with. I'm not against pay to win, but unfortunately, I can't afford credits in Trove anymore, man. Like my Canadian dollar is like 60 cents on the US dollar, and I'm not getting paid enough from YouTube anymore. So unfortunately, I won't be able to just skip everything, which is why I'm so adamant about being very, very cautious with what you spend those converters on. But hopefully I'll be able to nail down a number for you guys and be able to tell you. Otherwise, they're supposed to, as part of the content creator program, they're going to end up giving me like a whole bunch of gems and stuff to basically max out when, well, they were supposed to do that yesterday, but I didn't read their message yet, and I exported my account, which then deleted all the items they gave me. So I told them, hey, can you give me more? And they'll just give it to me when they give it to me. But suffice to say, if you have Mystic gear, the new power rank goes up to 54.4K, if I'm not mistaken. And I've heard reports of someone opening 40,000 Gearcrafter vaults and not getting a single Mystic dropped out of them, which is interesting because there was a bug a little while ago where 50 KPR was possible just for like a day or something, and people were getting Mystic gear out of the Gearcrafter vaults. So either that person who opened 40,000 of them got extremely unlucky, or they have since removed Mystic from the loot table in these until you hit like maybe 55K and up, just because we can't hit 55K yet. So I don't know, but that's all just speculation. Anyways, smash like, sub for more, buy the merch you want to support the channel. Have a wonderful day, everybody.